The Gogol Ghost Train, supernatural mystery challenging humanity. In 1991, the Gogol Ghost Train reappeared in Poltava, attracting the attention of the press and media. Both Ukrainian newspapers also published information about the incident. One of the most peculiar mysterious phenomena in Eastern Europe and Russia is the mystery of the Gogol Ghost Train. Many reports suggest that scientists from the Moscow State University conducted investigations and studies on the ghost train phenomenon. However, due to the reluctance to disclose these unexplained phenomena to the public, the incident remains a mystery. In January 2009, in Ukraine, some people claimed, "I saw a train rushing towards me, but in the blink of an eye, it disappeared, without a trace." Where did it go? This phenomenon stirred the curiosity of enthusiasts of mysteries related to our world's ghost trains. In fact, since 1933, the ghost train journey has become an unsolved case. From 1951 until now, the ghost train has appeared several times on the Eurasian continent, becoming one of the incidents that defy conventional laws of physics. The disappearance of the Gogol Ghost Train. The incident of the missing train is related to the disappearance of the skull box of the famous Russian writer Nikolai Vasilievich Gogol, dubbed the Charles Dickens of Russia, who died in 1852. In 1931, Gogol's grave was moved to the Danilov Cemetery in Moscow, which later became a juvenile prison. However, when his body was exhumed, his skull box was found to be missing. After numerous difficulties in the search, Gogol's relatives, naval officer Yanovsky, found the missing skull box and brought it back to Italy, where he was stationed. Immediately after, Yanovsky asked an Italian officer to personally deliver this box to a Russian lawyer. In the spring of 1933, the Italian officer took Gogol's skull box and began a long journey, accompanied by his brother and some friends, boarding a train and setting off joyfully. As the train entered a long tunnel, the officer's brother, wanting to play a prank on his friends to scare them, secretly took Gogol's skull box out of the box. But just before the train entered the tunnel, the passengers on the train inexplicably panicked, and the student immediately jumped off the train before it completely disappeared. Later, he told reporters that a strange white fog had engulfed this ill-fated train, describing the indescribable fear and panic of the passengers at that moment. He admitted to being the one who stole the collapsed wooden box containing his brother's skull. Among the 106 passengers on this train, only 2 survived by jumping off the train before it inexplicably vanished. Local authorities conducted thorough inspections and searches of the tunnel, but surprisingly found no traces left by the train, and the entrance to the tunnel thereafter was blocked. In World War II, a bomb destroyed this tunnel, and upon investigation, it was confirmed that the train vanished in 1933. In reality, this was a 3-carriage train, rented by a tourist from a company in Italy, and to this day, the model of this train is preserved in a railway museum in Milan. Therefore, investigators wanted to use this train model to understand the cause of the train's bizarre disappearance, but ultimately, the investigation yielded no results. The appearance of the ghost train in 1991, the Gogol Ghost Train reappeared in Poltava, attracting the attention of the press and the media, with both Ukrainian newspapers publishing information about the incident. A railway employee working at a rail switchyard identified the day the train appeared as September 25, 1991. On that day, a scientist from the Ukrainian Academy of Sciences specializing in supernatural phenomena stood near the rail crossing, waiting for the appearance of this ghost train. When it reappeared from nowhere, he jumped onto the last carriage under the watch of some witnesses, but then the train quickly disappeared again, and the scientist wanting to unravel the mystery of this mysterious ghost train also vanished along with the strange train, with no news since then. According to press reports, after the scientist disappeared, the ghost train appeared again at this crossing, but no one dared to jump onto the ghost train anymore. There were also reports of the ghost train appearing on the Crimean Peninsula in 1955, where the train passed through an old embankment, but the strange thing was that the railway there had long been dismantled. The last appearance of the ghost train. On January 17, 2009, police officer Schuster in Poltava, Ukraine, while in pursuit of a stolen car, found himself at a railroad crossing. As he approached the intersection, Schuster's car suddenly malfunctioned and came to a halt. Stepping out of his vehicle to apprehend the thief, a train whistle suddenly blared, and a train appeared on the tracks just meters away from the stolen car, hurtling towards it. Schuster and the car thief were both taken aback. Where did this train come from? It was a very short train, consisting of only 3 cars, its design antiquated, and trains with steam engines like this had long been phased out. Yet, the train continued its course, crashing into the stuck car and sending it flying off the tracks. Seizing the opportunity, the car thief climbed aboard the second car of the train. As Schuster gave chase, the car thief waved at him triumphantly. At that moment, a middle-aged woman suddenly appeared at the window of the third car of the train, dressed in a vintage floral dress, staring out of the window in bewilderment. But just as Schuster ran towards the train to climb aboard, a chilling scream made him freeze. "Don't get on anymore." Turning around, Schuster saw an elderly railway worker with a concerned look on his face. The railway worker, named Bolt, exclaimed in horror, "You're lucky. If you had boarded that train, you wouldn't have been able to get off. It's the Gogol ghost train." Railway workers in Russia often refer to such ghost trains as URO, meaning unidentified rolling objects on the railway. According to rumors, UROs have appeared multiple times in the Moscow region, notably in the years 1975, 1981, 1986, 1992, and 2009. Ivan Patsa, a professor at Moscow University and a physicist and mathematician, leads a group of scientists interested in ghost trains, including railway experts, philosophers, and scientists from other fields. They have conducted numerous investigations and field studies at railway intersections in areas where ghost trains have appeared. Patsa believes that the intertwined railway network of Eurasia is the largest global project built by humanity on Earth, and this colossal railway network may have effects on the flow of time. He suggests that any significant changes in space would immediately cause abnormal phenomena, as time and space are inseparably linked electromagnetically. Patsa's theory posits that time is also conserved, and the passage of time does not disappear. Regarding the ghost train, there are 2 unresolved mysteries. Why does the train keep moving forward without stopping, and why does no one get off the train? There have been many supernatural events involving the ghost train, and there are numerous witnesses to this mysterious phenomenon. It has sparked widespread interest, and scientists have attempted to explain this mystery with various hypotheses, but the sudden appearance and disappearance of ghost trains remain an enigma to this day. The mystery of the Tunguska event of 1908 remains unsolved. In 1908, in the Tunguska River area of Siberia, Russia, a peculiar and massive explosion occurred. The energy of this explosion has been estimated to be equivalent to 10 to 20 million tons of TNT. To this day, the Tunguska event stands as the most powerful explosion ever recorded in history. The explosion flattened over 2,000 square kilometers of land. On June 30, 1908, at 7:17 a.m., on the banks of the tranquil Tunguska River in western Siberia, Russia, a blinding column of light tore across the sky, accompanied by a deafening explosion. The sky roared, the earth trembled, and the ground shook violently. The explosion flattened over 60 million trees in an area of more than 2,000 square kilometers. Fortunately, the area where the incident occurred was uninhabited, so there were no reported casualties. However, there were accounts of a reindeer herder being thrown into a tree and killed by the immense pressure. At the scene of the explosion, hundreds of charred reindeer lay strewn across the ground, alongside large trees toppled as if they were mere matchsticks. Residents within the affected area recounted chilling experiences of the ground trembling and windows shattering. Some were even lifted off the ground by the force. A town located 60 kilometers from the epicenter of the explosion felt the power of the blast as shards of glass flew everywhere, and some even felt the heat radiating from the falling debris. Travelers in the surrounding area felt the ground shake violently as they endured fierce winds that sent their tents flying for miles. South of the explosion center lies a town named Vanavara. In the early morning hours of the event, along with the thunderous boom, all the glass windows of houses and architectural structures shattered, door frames, window frames, everything shook and fell apart. Then came the ground upheaval, as roofs of all the houses were torn off. Trees lining the streets and in gardens were uprooted. Semyonov, a resident of the area at the time, recalled, "In the morning, I was sitting outside my house when suddenly I saw the sky split in two, and a huge pillar of fire appeared above the forest. The split in the sky grew larger, and the entire northern part was engulfed in flames. It was so hot that my shirt seemed to catch fire, and the heat kept intensifying from the north. I intended to tear off my shirt and throw it away, but then the sky suddenly darkened, and there was a loud noise, and I was thrown several meters away." The explosion generated seismic waves strong enough to be detected as far as Central Europe. Seismic monitoring stations in Germany and England recorded intense shaking of the earth. Even as far as the island of Java in Indonesia and on the other side of the earth, in the capital city of Washington, D.C., similar seismic disturbances were noted. After the massive explosion, natural phenomena occurred worldwide. In London, all the street lights suddenly went out, plunging the populace into thick darkness. In the Netherlands, the night sky lit up with a white glow resembling daylight. Meanwhile, people in the United States felt the ground tremble. Especially in the Tunguska region, for 3 days and nights following the explosion, darkness vanished. During those days, sunlight pierced through the clouds, casting strange greenish rays. In the subsequent nights, the sky appeared much brighter than usual. Gradually, by the end of August, the sky returned to its normal state. Numerous hypotheses were proposed. In 1934, Soviet scientists presented various theories in Kulik's research, suggesting that a comet, not an asteroid, struck Tunguska. Because comets are primarily composed of ice, all the water vaporized upon impact, leaving no trace. In 1965, Cohen, Atluri, and Libby proposed that the Tunguska event resulted from the destruction of an antimatter lump falling from space. However, they didn't account for the mineral debris remaining in the area after the explosion. Furthermore, there's no astronomical evidence supporting the existence of such antimatter lumps in our universe. In 1973, Jackson and Ryan hypothesized that the Tunguska event was caused by a small black hole passing through Earth. Unfortunately for this theory, there's no evidence of a second explosion when the black hole departed Earth, and it wasn't widely accepted. Moreover, Stephen Hawking's subsequent theory about black holes emitting energy suggests that such a small black hole would evaporate long before reaching Earth. Supporters of unidentified flying objects, UFOs, have long claimed that the Tunguska event resulted from a spaceship explosion by extraterrestrials or even a type of extraterrestrial weapon used to save Earth from an impending threat. However, the most widely believed scenario for this event is the impact of a comet or asteroid with Earth. Interestingly, on the Tunguska River, even in the epicenter of the explosion, there's no evidence of impact or remnants of a comet or asteroid. Scientists hypothesized that the comet didn't actually collide with the ground, it passed through Earth's atmosphere at over 50,000 kilometers per hour. Friction with the hot air causing its outer layers to heat up to 44,500 degrees Fahrenheit. At a height of 8.5 kilometers, this temperature caused the comet asteroid to self-ignite and disintegrate, resulting in an airburst. That's why witnesses saw the sky brighten before everything was destroyed, and also why there are no impact traces on the ground. Although most scientists, as well as the general public, lean towards the comet or asteroid impact scenario, the lack of definitive evidence continues to fuel humanity's curiosity about this event. Even the hypothesis of an extraterrestrial attack has been imaginatively sketched by some, describing it as an explosion from a specially designed weapon that left no trace. In summary, the Tunguska explosion of 1908 in Siberia remains a world mystery to this day. While new theories are continuously proposed, which opinion may become the final conclusion awaits further in-depth investigation and research by scientists worldwide. Flight MH370, the most mysterious disappearance in modern aviation history. The fate of Flight MH370 became one of the greatest aviation mysteries in the world when it vanished without a trace while flying from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing on March 8, 2014. 10 years after the Malaysia Airlines Boeing 777, Flight MH370, disappeared, the families of those on board the flight still refuse to give up hope of finding their loved ones as they call on the Malaysian government to allow private companies to launch new search campaigns. The fate of MH370 has become one of the world's greatest aviation mysteries, as it disappeared without leaving any trace on its journey from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing on March 8, 2014. Disappearing over the ocean. At 12:41 a.m. on March 8, 2014, Flight MH370 took off from Kuala Lumpur International Airport on its routine flight to Beijing, China. 39 minutes after takeoff, the MH370 cockpit suddenly lost contact with air traffic control, and it disappeared from radar screens at 1:22 a.m. on the same day. Flight data indicates that MH370 quickly reached an altitude of nearly 10,700 meters shortly after takeoff. The pilot in command at that time was First Officer Fareeq Hamid, 27 years old. This was his final training flight, intended to help him obtain full certification soon. Fareeq's instructor, who was also the captain of the flight, was Zari Ahmed Shah, 53, one of the most senior captains at Malaysia Airlines. In the cockpit that night, while First Officer Fareeq was flying the aircraft, Captain Zari was managing the communications. This arrangement was standard, but Zari's communication style was somewhat unusual. At 1:01 a.m., he radioed that the aircraft was maintaining an altitude of nearly 10,700 meters, an unnecessary report in radar-monitored airspace, where pilots typically only report leaving an altitude, not reaching one. At 1:08 a.m., the aircraft passed over the coast of Malaysia and flew into the South China Sea, entering Vietnamese airspace. Zari once again reported the aircraft's altitude as nearly 10,700 meters. 11 minutes later, as the aircraft approached the beginning of Vietnam's non-radar procedural airspace, the air traffic controller at Kuala Lumpur Center radioed over the airwaves, Malaysia 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night. Captain Zari replied, good night. Malaysia 370. Captain Zari did not read back the frequency as he should have. This was the last time the MH370 cockpit crew communicated with the ground. The flight crew of MH370 did not establish contact with the Ho Chi Minh City Air Traffic Control. Flight MH370 subsequently failed to register with the Ho Chi Minh City Air Traffic Control and did not respond to any attempts to contact them thereafter. 5 seconds after MH370 entered Vietnam's airspace, the aircraft's transponder symbol disappeared from the radar screens of the Malaysian Air Traffic Control Agency. And 37 seconds later, the entire aircraft vanished from radar. It was at 1:21 a.m. on March 8, precisely 39 minutes after takeoff. The air traffic controller in Kuala Lumpur was preoccupied with handling other flights on the screen and simply did not notice. When the anomaly was realized, the on-duty personnel that day assumed that the aircraft was under the control of the Ho Chi Minh City Air Traffic Control. Meanwhile, Vietnamese air traffic controllers observed MH370 entering the airspace and then disappearing from radar 1 minute and 17 seconds before the aircraft reached the Iguri point, the handover point. Throughout this process, the MH370 flight crew never made contact with the Ho Chi Minh City Air Traffic Control. Nevertheless, the Ho Chi Minh City Air Traffic Control continued attempting to establish contact with the aircraft multiple times, but to no avail. Vietnamese air traffic controllers called to report the incident to Kuala Lumpur when attempts to connect with MH370 were unsuccessful. In response to Vietnam's Civil Aviation Authority regarding Malaysia's notification that Vietnam delayed reporting the loss of MH370, the Vietnam Civil Aviation Authority asserted that there was no evidence to suggest that MH370 had crossed the Iguri handover point into the airspace managed by Vietnam. At the time MH370 disappeared from radar, it was still within Singapore's Flight Information Region. This airspace sector is delegated by Singapore to Malaysia for operation. Vietnam's Civil Aviation Authority affirmed that MH370 had not established communication with the Ho Chi Minh City Air Traffic Control. Therefore, the transfer of control had not been completed. Vietnam had not conducted operations or control with this aircraft. The Malaysian Aerospace Search and Rescue Coordination Center should have been notified of the incident within 1 hour of the aircraft's disappearance. However, by 2:30 a.m., this had not yet been done. Over 4 more hours passed, until 6:32 a.m., before authorities finally began emergency response. By that time, the aircraft should have landed in Beijing. From that moment until the present, there has been no further information about MH370 or the 239 passengers and crew on board. The search effort. The Malaysian Aviation Authority and Malaysia Airlines quickly found themselves in crisis mode following the disappearance of MH370. Authorities scrambled to search for the aircraft by any means possible, while the loved ones of the passengers in Beijing anxiously awaited a flight that would never arrive. Initial search efforts for MH370 focused on the South China Sea, between Malaysia and Vietnam. It was an international effort that brought together 34 ships and 28 aircraft from 7 different countries. Within days, primary radar data collected from air traffic control computers, as well as partially authenticated through Malaysia's secret military radar data, revealed that shortly after disappearing from radar, MH370 had turned southwest, retracing its path over the Malay Peninsula and looping around Penang Island. From there, the aircraft headed northwest into the Malacca Strait and crossed over the Andaman Sea into the Indian Ocean, where it exited radar coverage and entered a region of concealment. This series of events unfolded over the course of more than an hour, indicating that this was not a typical hijacking. Nothing about it resembled a conventional accident or a pilot suicide scenario as previously encountered. Right from the start, MH370 led investigators down uncharted paths. The mystery surrounding MH370's altered flight path became the focal point of the investigation and the source of speculation, sometimes sensational, which shook public opinion. The loss devastated families across 4 continents. No one could conceive that a state-of-the-art aircraft equipped with modern tools and emergency communication devices could vanish without a trace. Despite denials from Malaysian officials and the concealment by their air force, the truth about MH370's strange flight path quickly emerged. It turned out the aircraft continued to connect with an Indian Ocean satellite operated by Inmarsat, a London-based commercial provider, for 6 hours after disappearing from secondary radar. This meant the plane did not suddenly succumb to a catastrophic event. During those 6 hours, MH370 was believed to be flying at altitude and at high speed. Inmarsat connections, some of which were called handshakes, were electronic blips on radar screens. They were periodic connections indicating the best whisper communication because purposeful system content such as passenger entertainment systems, cockpit text messages, or automatic maintenance reports had been separated or turned off. In today's age, it's challenging to permanently delete an electronic message, and living off the grid is nearly impossible even if we consciously try to do so. The design of a Boeing 777 allows for continuous electronic access. Despite designs for traceability, MH370 remains undiscovered in reality, after over 9 years of relentless search efforts. The exact fate of this passenger-carrying aircraft remains unknown. However, many details about the disappearance of MH370 have gradually come to light, and reconstructing what happened on that fateful night may be possible even though investigators have yet to find the plane's 2 black boxes, containing the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder. The disappearance sparked one of the largest aviation searches in history and generated a plethora of theories about its whereabouts and what happened aboard the aircraft. MH370 search operation concludes on January 17, 2017. The search operation for the missing flight MH370 concluded after nearly 3 years since it vanished without a trace over the Indian Ocean, carrying 239 passengers and 12 crew members. Despite every effort, utilizing the most sophisticated science available, cutting-edge technology, as well as modeling, advice from highly skilled professionals in their field. Unfortunately, the search has not been able to locate the aircraft. CNN quoted a joint statement from officials from China, Australia, and Malaysia. Families of the victims were also informed that the underwater search over an area of 120,000 square kilometers in the southern Indian Ocean had been unsuccessful. The MH370 search operation is considered the most expensive rescue operation in history, spanning from the Indian Ocean west of Australia to China. However, only some debris believed to be from the aircraft was found, with no sign of the victims' remains. The budget for this operation amounted to $150 million at that time. During the initial phase of the MH370 search operation, international rescue forces mobilized 42 ships and 39 aircraft from 14 countries, including Malaysia, Vietnam, China, Singapore, Indonesia, the United States, Thailand, Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, India, France, Taiwan, and Japan. The search operation in the South China Sea concluded on March 15, when Malaysian officials determined that MH370 had changed course towards the Indian